Computer, boom. Evening, everybody. We'll just give everybody 2 secs just to log themselves in. There's a few people joining us at the moment. Just a few more people coming in, and then we will make a start. Cool. I think that's everybody for now. We've had a few joining us saying they'll be slightly late, which is fine. They can join us a little bit later on. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. 7:30 on a Thursday. Thanks everybody for giving up your time. This is, I'm not sure what number this is in our kind of series of virtual Q&As, if you like, but it's not the first one. There's 2 or 3 on YouTube via the Cricket Wales channel. So this is just another one in our series, and what a lineup we've got. Probably the best lineup we've had so far, I would go as far to say. Delighted to welcome all 3 of our girls. We are a girl down, I hate to say. Nia Jones has found herself called away to play football in Denmark, would you believe, given everything. So she's unable to join us tonight, but she does send her apologies. But if I can introduce our 3 guests, some of you, none of them need an introduction really, but for those of you that may or may not know all of them, or some of them to an extent, we've got Claire Nicholas, one of our very own Welsh cricket girls, massively senior figure in the Wales senior women's setup, and has been for a number of years, has been ever present for Western Storm since 2017, I think it started. 2-time KSL winner, and she's blushing already at that. 15 wickets over the course of the campaign. 3 for 41. I did some research. CT, I believe, is your best.
Wow, response. You know more than me, Matt.
So massive welcome. Thanks for giving up your time tonight for us. Sophie Luff, another Western Storm stalwart again since the start. Key figure within Somerset Ladies. There's also Somerset Women's captain. Luffy is also Somerset Women and Girls Performance head coach. So there's a bit we can unpack with Luffy on the coaching side. And for those of you that keep up to date on the news, Luffy's one of the 3 Western Storm girls that's recently been given a full-time contract. So massive congratulations and welcome to Luffy tonight. And last but not least, we have Giselle Ansley, who will unpack Giselle's cricket exploits in the past as well tonight, probably. But again, massively, some of you will recognise the name from England and GB hockey. It's pretty not a bad deal to have Commonwealth Games silver medal and Olympic gold in Rio to your name, alongside an MBE, which again is not meant to make you blush, Giselle, at all. So massive welcome to you 3 girls. Thanks so much for joining us. And really the point of tonight for all of you guys tuning in, whether we've got girls on this call who are obviously part of, well, certainly the Welsh pathway. I'm not sure we've got any from elsewhere, but I'm sure they'll tune into it afterwards. We've got parents on this call, we've got coaches, so please do ask as much as you want to get out of tonight, and ask the girls as much as you want to ask, sorry. Use the chat box. Chat box is there for you. Whack anything in there. And we'll get round to pretty much every single question that we can. And I know we've had loads that have come in throughout the night. So we'll kick off without any further ado. Try and keep yourselves on mute if you can, just to try to limit the background noise as you can. And as I say, we'll be recording to pop this on the Cricket Wales website probably later tonight if we can do that. So without any further ado, I was kind of originally going to unpack and talk to our 3 guests kind of around their backgrounds, which we will do, but I think we'll dive straight into questions if that's all right, and we'll kind of go around the stories and we can expand on lots of different stuff as we go. So some of the pre questions that were sent in, we're going to start with a reasonably tough one. And Luffy, I'm going to kick off with you actually, if that's okay. What's the Elizabeth Cox this is? So Elizabeth is definitely on this call. Port Talbot Town. What is the best advice you've ever been given? It's quite a broad one, that. What are your thoughts on that, Luffy?
It's a very good question, actually. And so that does come to mind. So when I was at the academy, I worked with a coach called John Stanley. I've always been pigeonholed as a player. Sophie Luff plays in a particular way. So his advice was brilliant in terms of just letting me explore and see what I could do. So it was mainly just letting me go and seeing what Sophie Luff was capable. And that was a great learning curve for me.
Yeah, nice. Great start. CT, what's best advice you've been given, CT?
I'm going to embarrass Amy Reese here because since she's been our Welsh women's coach, she's worked really hard on pushing the girls out of their comfort zone. I think, you know, particularly where I've played quite a number of years, there are certain things which I've done so many times that they kind of come part of your comfort zone, and she's really key at pushing you out of that comfort zone. So if I had any advice really, and she obviously gave me the advice of, you're never too old to learn new tricks, so just keep pushing yourself and just pushing those boundaries really, and try new things all the time is my best advice really, to keep on improving as a player.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, awesome, spot on. Giselle, can I come to you on that one as well?
Yeah, for me, the best advice I've got, not necessarily from a coach, actually is from a teammate from the Rio Olympic cycle, who said basically to play and train with no regrets, so that you know kind of whether that's at the end of your career or even after a match or a training session, that you've given absolutely everything and that you've got nothing that you wish you had done. You've done everything that you possibly could. So yeah, that's kind of one of the mantras, I guess, that I train and kind of live by, is just to have no regrets. Yeah,
cool. What a start. Hopefully, Elizabeth, there's an answer to some of those. And I guess I'll lead on to that in terms of, I don't want to be too broad here, but it's something that we've discussed that as coaches lots of times, certainly in girls cricket, perhaps more so than the boys setting, is around confidence. And for young girls in particular, that confidence, don't matter what sport it is, but it's so important. Sometimes we feel that girls, we've just got to pump those tyres up a little bit more. From all three of yours perspective, I'd be really interested to know kind of how did you build your confidence over your careers and your careers now? How did you kind of build those, maintain it and enhance it over time? If that's not too broad a question. And CT, I'll start with you on that one.
I think for me, it's just been exposed to boys and men's cricket. And obviously gaining that confidence, because you feel that obviously if you can perform in that kind of environment, that you'd be okay playing against other women. You know, I didn't start playing women's cricket until I was 15. So, you know, it went from in school being told by a head teacher that I couldn't be in the cricket team because it was for only boys, to having that determination really to prove everybody else wrong and just to keep going with it. But it's definitely been testing yourself and really, again, pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think you kind of gain confidence from that and kind of breaking the mold really and trying new things. So that's where I got my confidence from anyway, with cricket.
And I guess if someone's telling you you can't do something and you go then and do it, that gives you even more confidence then, doesn't it?
I'm quite stubborn. So that kind of works in my favour really when it comes to things like that.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. And even now that still rings true, you know, even performing at, you know, when you're a youngster and now kind of there's days still when you're low on confidence, and how do you build that back up?
I think it's just having that abilities character really. I think you know, going back to what we've already said about training hard and not leaving anything on the pitch, and it's that confidence going out there and backing yourself, your skill level, and that knowing that you've got what it takes to be able to win a match. And that comes from just playing games. And you know, you can do so much training, but it's actually being out on the pitch and executing those skills and knowing once that you've done it once or twice, you could back yourself. So for me, it's game time. It's actually going out there. I'm not perhaps the best net player, but actually going out on the field, that's where you'll see me as a player really.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah.
Awesome. Giselle, anything again, we don't know how far you want to go back, but kind of how your confidence has built over time. It's similar to CT or different?
Yeah, definitely. I think everything that you just mentioned there, 100%. I also think, and this is even now, we talk so much about our super strengths. What is it that you are really good at? We spend so much time working on things that we're not good at. You're always trying to make yourself better at something that you're not necessarily that great at, that you can sometimes forget the things that you're really good at and making them not just strengths but really real super strengths, something that you know that you can deliver time and time and time again. And I think that's the same across all sports, that you have those strengths and you really know exactly what they are. And it's definitely something that even when I was younger, and that was in cricket or hockey, knowing what I could do, so I always had that I could kind of come back to. And I'm also someone who's very stubborn as well, and if someone tells me I can't do something, then I'm going to go out there and prove them wrong. And that again is something that's rung true my entire sporting life, I guess. But yeah, I think my main thing for confidence, and I always say it to younger players when they come into our squad now, is just remember what got you here, and the main strengths that you have, and keep working on them as well as things that you're not necessarily as good at.
Yeah, that's a really interesting one. And Luffy, I'll come to you on this one. I'll just touch on that point there. It's often when you move up the levels in whatever pathway or standard it might be, you often think you've got to do something different once you get to that level, but actually it is the stuff you've progressed because of the stuff you've done. So that's a really good one. Confidence wise, anything similar to the girls, or anything that stood out for you massively in terms of your confidence?
No, I agree completely with what the girls have been saying so far. I think for me a massive one was the relationship I have with coaches, and actually I guess they're more important when you are low on confidence and you feel like you've got someone to go to that you really trust, and they know your game inside out. Sometimes you forget what you are really good at and those super strengths, and you just need a little bit of a nudge in the right direction, and it's important that you can go to someone that you know give you their honest opinion, someone that you really value them, because you've got that great relationship with them. So yeah,
fab. Okay, and I'll just pick up on that because it's related to confidence. And when we spoke in the week, Luffy, in prep for this, was you went through a confidence knock, didn't you, at one stage around kind of deselection and not progressing as at the time you would have liked. Do you want to just expand on that a little bit and kind of talk our listeners kind of through that journey and how you came out the other side of that?
Yeah, so it was around deselection from an England Academy programme back in 2015 now. So it seems like quite a long time ago. I think it's 2015, 2016. I'd been part of that programme, and I got a call to say, you've had a really good KSL, but we're going to look at some younger girls. So yeah, it was disappointing at the time, but actually the development of women's cricket and the tournament, the KSL, gave me the platform to go out and show what I can do. And the girls have already said that they're stubborn, and when they've got a point to prove, they go about their business really well. And I think it was the same for me in terms of, you can go and look at these younger girls, but I'm going to go out on the pitch and I'm going to show you what Sophie Luff can do. And that was probably a turning point for me. And from then I've kicked on, and I've got to where I am now, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And CT, you're slightly different in the sense that, as you mentioned, you obviously started later in that journey, kind of 15, I think you said, when you kind of discovered cricket in kind of the women's setting. Have you experienced that kind of deselection or setback in that sense, or is your journey just kind of been upward curve, if you like?
Not so much deselection. It's just kind of, I guess, kind of my cricketing journey has been obviously playing for Wales. And the year that Trevor Griffin actually came to our Welsh net to ask me if I'd like to go storm training, I was about to give up. I guess it's not like a deselection, but it's more the desire to want to try something new and the desire to kind of kick on with your career. And had you not given me that opportunity, I don't know whether I'd still be playing, because you always want to play at the highest level possible when you can. But apart from that, really, I haven't really had the same sort of experience as Luffy. But certainly testing myself and trying to progress in that way and having the confidence to be able to do that has pushed me on to where I am now as well. So slightly different path, really.
Yeah, definitely. And Giselle, I don't know what I would have no concept of what the Olympic environment is like, but I'd imagine that is full of setbacks and challenge and competition, and I would imagine that's not gone plain sailing for you for the most part.
Yeah, no, you're completely right. I joined the squad, the GB hockey squad, in 2013, so straight after the London Olympics. And I kind of went into the squad as a 20-year-old, and I was kind of, everything was new. I was still studying at Loughborough, so I was trying to study and play at the same time. Which I really...
Oh, is that just me where she's gone, or is that everybody?
No, she's gone.
Oh, she's gone. Oh, they're testing my ability to improvise. We'll leave that for a minute. Giselle, I'm sure we'll pop back in a minute. Okay, let's go on to it. I think by the sounds of it, she was just talking about balance there, and how do you balance certain things, whether it's study or lots of different things. Luffy, we obviously know each other a bit through university, and you've had the challenge of balancing university, I guess, with an element of high performance. How was that experience for you in terms of, you know, making sure you can still perform at the highest level whilst focusing on other stuff?
To be honest, it was brilliant. It was where I could really kick on with my cricket. I know Mark O'Leary is on the call, but he did a lot for me in that time in terms of, you know, taking a little bit of a risk and putting a couple of girls on the MCCU programme. So he did me a massive favour. At that time, I was part of the England Academy, so I was travelling up and down to Loughborough most weekends. But it was the support that I got at the university, you know, S&C 3 times a week, skill sessions. That's where I really made probably my biggest gains. And yeah, balancing studying, it's just about being organised and taking ownership, I guess. And if you want to be a professional athlete and get to the top level, sometimes you have to make sacrifices. And I chose to, you know, really focus on study and my cricket at the same time, which was great.
And it can be done, can't it? Because obviously we've got plenty of girls across the whole pathway, boys as well, who they get to kind of that 16, 17, obviously A-levels, GCSEs, all of that stuff's massively important. And I guess it's good to know that you can do both and you don't have to kind of shelve one entirely. Is that fair?
Yeah, 100%. I think, you know, there's times where, you know, cricket will be your priority and then it will take a little bit of a backseat, and, you know, your academics take hold if you've got exams and things like that. But it's just managing it, and it's just making sure that you're prioritising what you need to at the right time, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And CT, you've got, I wouldn't even go to exams at that point. You've got a young lad, bless you. So how's that journey for you, performing at, you know, effectively the highest standard of women's cricket? Giselle's back. There we go. We've
Sorry,
got
I don't know what happened there.
No worries. Yeah, CT, that kind of that balance of. Oh, where are we? We'll carry on. How's that balance of you know, kind of being a mum and having that high performance kind of setting? Has that been a challenge or not as bad as you would have kind of imagined?
No, it is a challenge. Of course, it's a challenge, and obviously you kind of chuck into the mix as well, having a full-time job, which is teaching. It is hard going. And I think it's very similar to what Luffy says, is that obviously throughout the winter and kind of the off season, you can kind of prioritize different things. Obviously, family comes top no matter what, in terms of the kind of the S&C is the thing that you work on more in the winter, and when the kind of summer comes, obviously cricket is at the forefront of things. But I'm really lucky that I have a really understanding partner who is very happy to kind of take Harry and to come to the games and be really supportive in that sense as well. So the whole kind of family setting has really given me that platform to be able to to kind of keep all the plates spinning, and none of them have dropped yet, and I'm still here, so I'm doing okay. But yeah, as it's just about tweaking things and just making sure really that you're not burning yourself out. That's the most important thing when you've got lots going on.
And how do you do that? How do you avoid, not just I guess from a mum, but any player in kind of a high performance setting, that separating yourself from the sport or whatever it might be? That is a really important part of being able to still operate at that level. How do you guys kind of switch off and find different ways to do that?
Definitely the winter, it is no cricket at all, and I find that period is it's the busiest period in school. You get a new class as well coming in, so the new class coming in September kind of wears you out just before Christmas. But it's having that time, and like I know, for instance, Amy, we do our fitness testing in October, around October time, and then it's just literally look after yourselves, have some time out, spend some time with your families, and then we'll see you in the new year. And then that kind of period off really helps to kind of recharge everything, and then you're ready to come. Well, obviously you're ready for what the season throws at you then.
Yeah, sure.
Just having a break. Yeah,
definitely. And Giselle, sorry, I'll come back to you in a sec once we go. Luffy, just on that one, because from my experiences with you, Luffy, you're very similar to me in the sense of the term badger and cricket, and love cricket no matter what. What do you do to switch off? What's your kind of things you go to if you need to get away mentally, I guess, rather as much as physically?
Yeah, I think it's massively important to switch off, isn't it? And yeah, I've got myself into trouble where I feel like I should be hitting balls and that sort of thing. And it's just, yeah, like CT said, just taking yourself completely away from the game and focusing on other things for a change. Lockdown, I've been doing a hell of a lot of fitness, and I should have maybe tapped into a little bit of studying at times, but that's something that I'll probably look to do with time on my hands now. Hopefully, just focusing on cricket and training is trying to, what interests Sophie Luff, and what can I do to set myself up for maybe life after cricket. Yeah,
definitely. And look, I just want to come back to Giselle. I'll bring you back in on this one. We've got our first question on the chat box. CT was talking about family and all the family comes first stuff, which is absolutely spot on. First question on the chat, we've got Mark Barrington, who, for those of you that don't know, is director of sport at Cathedral School, just down the road from Sophia Gardens. I guess in terms of having, and Luffy, you touched on it as well, having coaches to understand you the player is really important. Giselle, Mark's question is kind of which leader in your career has given you the most empathy, and what that looked like, and the impact that had on your sporting experience in that environment. Can you think of an example there where a coach or somebody in your kind of support network is you can kind of pinpoint that's had a really, really good impact on you?
Yeah, I mean, I can think of a number, to be honest, and they're mainly in coaching figures, for sure. When I went to Loughborough, I wasn't in any international programme at all, and I went there to play cricket, mainly. And then I actually ended up playing more hockey there in the end, and then I finished cricket in second year. But the coach there definitely was, he basically enabled me to do what I wanted with hockey, if that makes sense. He gave me the opportunities to train, a program set for me, but more than anything, he didn't kind of push me to do anything. He just gave me the support in order to make my own decisions as to what I wanted to do. Basically, if I wanted to go for hockey and I wanted to train hard, then he would put the sessions there for me. If I didn't, then like take it or leave it, essentially. And I think that's one of the most important things I think that I've found throughout my career, is that it has to come from myself. It has to come from within me, the motivation, the desire, and everything else. And I can have, I'm incredibly lucky now with the support staff that we have as a squad, but fundamentally that can all be set up for you. But if you don't have that internal desire and motivation and drive to get somewhere and achieve something, then you're not really going to make it. And so I think in terms of coaches and support, the just always being there. I think, as Luffy said about relationships with coaches, I think they are incredibly important, because it allows you to get more out of yourself, because you can feel a bit more comfortable.
Sure.
And I think that's one thing that this coach at Loughborough definitely kind of made me feel not so comfortable that you think, oh, this is easy, this is an easy life, but comfortable enough that you can go out there and express yourself. And yeah, so I think that's really important.
Yeah, cool. CT, you probably might have touched on it already with kind of some of the bits in Wales. And anything that a particular example kind of notably that stands out in terms of an empathetic in relation to Mark's question? Anything at all?
I think it's just coaches just knowing what makes their players tick. I think I've been really lucky in the last sort of 5-6 years. Obviously, Amy's on the call, but obviously Amy Reese being the Welsh coach and Trevor Griffin as well. I think when a coach gets to know their players really well, they know what buttons to press to get the best out of them. And with Amy, it's always been, here are the opportunities, and it's almost, if you have that desire and drive, here are the opportunities for you. And with Trev, it was more, obviously Storm's an elite level, so it's kind of, there are lots of opportunities, but I really want you to focus, and I want to be a passenger with you rather than kind of pigeonhole you into a kind of role. Just about a coach having the confidence within you to choose the path that you feel is right for you, knowing what is going to get you there in terms of what makes you tick. So it's having opportunities really, but as obviously we've already said, that it depends on the personality of the person, and if you're willing to go to those opportunities and to actually improve yourself as a player. So yeah.
Definitely. Keep the questions coming into the chat, by the way, everybody. Feel free to keep using that if there's a question that pops up that you want to jump in at any stage. Luffy, just kind of sticking on that theme, but moving on slightly. Giselle talked about drive, and CT's mentioned it a little bit around that inner drive, for a better word, that you need to kind of make the most out of yourself. All three of you, I believe, are in kind of a coaching capacity, whether it's CT, you're a school teacher, and I'm not sure, do you do a bit of coaching on the side, CT?
I used to do Welsh age groups, yeah.
There you go. Yeah. Luffy, you're obviously heavily involved in your Somerset stuff from a coaching angle, and Giselle, you coach at hockey level, I remember you said. So I guess Luffy and all three of you, I'd be interested in, whilst you guys have gone through that process, what stuff do you look at when you see young girls in your sessions, in your pathways, in your teams? What is it that makes them stand out, and what is it that you guys kind of look for now, maybe besides that drive? What bits make you kind of sit up and go, this girl's got something? And Luffy, I'll kick off with you on that one.
I think specifically from a cricket point of view, it's an awareness of their environment and what's going on, and I guess that stems from a little bit of what I'm about as a player in terms of reading the game and knowing what options to use. So that's what I like to look for in players in terms of their decision making skills and ultimately, like, can they progress because that is a strength of theirs. Batting is all about making decisions, isn't it? And you can soon find yourself back in the pavilion if you make the wrong one. So decision making's one, definitely. And I think another one would be just them being open to stuff. We talked a lot about confidence, but I'm very keen to let players go and see what they can do, because they'll surprise themselves, especially girls. So just giving them the freedom and the tools to feel comfortable that they can make mistakes and they can explore and find out what they are really good at and find out what those super strengths are that we've already talked about. Yeah,
cool. Giselle, I'll come to you on that one. Anything? It doesn't have to be cricket related here. What? Because you coach at hockey level, I want to say. Yeah. I forgot what you said you were in London. To be fair,
I coach an under-12 team actually. So I guess quite a tricky age in some senses, just some of them turning kind of nearly teenagers, and they're finding other things that are interesting. But yeah, I entirely agree. Decision making definitely in hockey again is something that's absolutely massive, and reading of the game. You do see a lot of incredibly talented kids now, which is phenomenal to see. But a lot are very kind of coached into the skills that they've got, and you look at them and their hand stick skills are phenomenal, but you put them in a game and they don't know when to use it, and that's one thing that I find very important when coaching kind of that age group especially, is to not just tell them everything, make them work things out for themselves often, let them make mistakes, because that's the best way you learn, and then kind of try and reinforce the positive kind of decisions, the correct decisions that they've made. But let people make mistakes. I think that's the best way that you learn, and even now I think that's the best way that I learn still.
Yeah, and I guess their response to those mistakes is quite important, whether they kind of go into the shell or whether they're quite keen to get back up and do it again, I suppose.
Yeah.
CT, maybe not so much from a coaching angle, but senior figure within Welsh cricket. If there's a new girl on the block that's coming into the team, what bits kind of make you sit up and go, yeah, this girl's got something?
I think for me it's character. It's the way they kind of conduct themselves around the team. For me, the best young talent that comes into the senior team is willing to learn and is open to listening to people, even though fuddy-duddies like me telling them, or maybe try this way. So they're not averse to trying something. And I think coming into the environment thinking it is a learning environment, or no, just because I'm in the team now, it doesn't mean I've made it. I need to keep my place in this team. And I think that's definitely improved since the senior teams become a lot more competitive as well. You see a lot of younger girls coming in, but you can see that they progress an awful lot whilst they're with us. It's not just once they're in, they feel that their job is done. But definitely character, it's that desire again, isn't it? To want to improve, to listen, how you conduct yourself on the pitch, but also to wear the shirt with pride as well. That's a massive take in my book. So yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Let's just go back to, I'll get to some of these questions in a minute because there's some really good ones. I just want to take your mind back, Giselle, you said under 12s, that age of teenagerism's on the horizon. There's lots of other interests, and the same goes for boys and girls. There's lots of other interests that can, kind of divert youngsters' attention away from cricket or the sport or whatever it is that they might be doing. Rena asks, and Rena is, if I'm reading right, level 1 coach up in Runcorn. She's kind of asking how do you maintain girls' passion of playing cricket when they get to that teenage age and maybe beyond? It doesn't have to be in cricket. Our responses to that, but Luffy, I'll kick off with you on that one if that's all right. How do you once you've got them, how do you keep them, if that's a simple way of asking that?
Well, it's just to keep it engaging, isn't it? And you want your sessions to be talked about, and you want them to be as fun as possible. I think the other thing is taking time to understand the player and person in front of you. So building, like I said earlier about, that relationship with the coach, it's important that you understand, what's going on, because there are a lot of other things going on. So if you're aware of those other things and you take an interest in those other things, but cricket is their thing when they come to you and they really enjoy it, then it's just to keep those conversations going. A lot of the girls on our programs at Somerset play a lot of other sports, which I think is a fantastic thing, because there's so much crossover, and they'll learn things like building their character, and it will help their confidence. And so we'll always encourage girls to go off and play other sports, but ultimately we want our environment to be the one that they come back to again and again.
Yeah, we're definitely going to touch on the multi-sport stuff in a minute. CT, I'm just interested in your one, again, from the kind of, I don't know if late developer's fair, but that 15, when you've explored that cricket and you've kind of really accelerated through the process, what what was it at 15? Why was it so? What about cricket was so fun that made you keep coming back? Was it kind of competition? What was it?
It was more the kind of the bonds that I made with other players as well. It's kind of that feeling of feeling a part of a team, and the friendships that I've made through cricket have lasted an awful long time. They still have lasted now. It's creating that kind of feel where you feel safe within that environment. You can express yourself with a bat and a ball, but also your character as well. So I think that's what I kind of tuned into, really, is that I had other females around me who loved the sport as much as I did, and we all got on really well. We all had very, very similar personalities. So for me, I just felt like I belonged. And we always say that, obviously, we try and create that atmosphere of like a cricket family in Wales. And I definitely believe that that's what keeps girls in the sport in Wales for a very, very long period of time.
Yeah.
So having a sense of belonging, yeah.
Really good point, Giselle. I'd imagine you guys reasonably tight knit bunch after everything you've gone through. Is that fair with your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's one of the reasons that I just love team sports in general, and absolutely, because you make some of your closest friends and you go through some of the best and some of the worst times with them, and I think that that's something definitely that if you invest in that kind of team culture, and as Luffy said, in the sessions, and like making them interesting, making them different, making people think, making people work together, that's the way that you really kind of stimulate kind of the love of the game, whichever game it is, and keep people coming back.
Yeah, sure. And just on that again, in terms of diverting people's attention away from, again, doesn't have to be cricket, but their interest. You mentioned obviously the university journey of went there maybe more for the cricket, and ended up kind of going down the hockey route. As Luffy said, we're very keen, and any sporting pathway will encourage multi-sport or lots of other interests. And I guess Helen and Georgia ask, how did you, at what stage and how did you have to make that decision between I'm going to pursue hockey a bit further and cricket kind of takes that back seat?
For me, I was basically in my second year. I then got into the under-21 England side for hockey, and everyone thinks hockey is a winter sport, but it's full year, like the full year. The season never seems to stop, and so it went over into the summer. And basically, my hockey coach for England under-21s just said to me, "Giselle, standing in the field for 50 overs is not a rest day." And I was like, "Yeah, okay," because I bowled and batted, so that was definitely not a rest day either. So it ultimately was kind of a decision made because I wanted to go to the Europeans that summer, and he said basically you can't do both. And I'd never been to Europeans in any age group before. I hadn't played for England before that, so that kind of opportunity was just too good to pass on. And I guess my career just took off from then, really. That under-21 Europeans led to a senior trial and then into the senior program the following year. So I guess the hockey journey suddenly went from just trotting along to suddenly did this, which basically made my decision for me.
Yeah, cool. That's really interesting, and I a little bit linked to that. Not really. I'm just going to try and make sure I get through as many of these questions that are coming in, because there are lots coming in, which is great. Luffy and CT, this tough one for you, really, and this is from Vaishali, which I hope I've pronounced that okay. How do you guys keep yourself motivated and disciplined to achieve your goals? And the angle I'd come at that, to add to that, I guess, is you obviously set yourself a goal that you want to, as a team or an individual, this is our summit, if you like, and you guys have dominated at KSL level now for a long time, and 2-time winners. How do you guys, once you've reached that peak and you have achieved what you've set out to do, that's got to be pretty tough to reset yourself. Is that how have you guys found that?
You going to
go on, if you can start us off, go for it. I can hear the cogs too. That's right. I
think individually for me, like what keeps me motivated is I haven't got to where I want to be yet. So I've always got that end goal in mind, and I guess that's what drives me forward every single day. As a team, I don't think we ever sort of rested on our laurels at Western Storm. The culture, the environment that we had, it was fantastic, and that's credit to the group of girls that we had, but it's also credit to the environment that was created by the coaching staff and the support staff. I guess it's a weird one just because we sort of only got together for a month of the year just to play in this quite intense competition, and when you get together, it was like nothing had changed every year. New girls came in every year, but the culture, the environment stayed exactly the same, and we knew what we wanted to do. We knew we wanted to win the KSL, and I guess when you've got that end goal in mind and everyone's got the same goal, the same purpose, as a collective, you'll do anything to get there.
Yeah, definitely spot on. CT, anything, whether it's individually, collectively, challenges of kind of making a goal and then I guess reevaluating that?
I think, in terms of, if I go back to Western Storm, what Luffy was talking about, even though we won the KSL, it was always about, Trevor Griffin always said, and the coaching staff always said, that we never played our best game of cricket, and there was still yet to come. So we always felt like we had something to keep on trying to chase, and I don't know if there is such thing as a perfect game, but it almost made us always want to improve. And every year we come back, he'd say, listen, I know we had achieved this, but this is a new start, this is a new year, and we go again, and we build upon the blocks that we've laid. But, as Luffy said, having that one goal as a team collectively, even when you are only together for a month, everything is on that goal. And it's all streamlined. You all share the same values to be able to achieve it. And it just kind of all works. And I know that Western Storm went really hard with the county players beforehand as well. So what they did really well is that they had us training leading up to the season as a group, and then obviously the professionals joined us then, so it just felt like we were building up to the point where we were able to play in the KSL, whereas I think some other teams perhaps didn't have that preparation in advance. But we always felt like we were always that kind of collective, even when it was the off season. So that's
where the friendships, and as you say, everything kind of, it feels like you haven't left in some ways, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Giselle, you guys probably don't come together for a month. I imagine you spend a lot more time with your group, maybe more so over kind of a cycle, I guess. And I would, you can tell me rather than me tell you. I imagine Olympic gold was probably the summit that you guys could have got to. I guess two things, and one of these questions did come in beforehand, was, what was that feeling like when you reached the summit? And then, how on earth do you kind of reset yourself after that, and what else is there left to achieve, really?
Yeah, very good question. I
haven't got a name for that. I don't know who sent that one in. Apologies.
So in terms of what it felt like, pretty hard to describe. It's very hard to put those feelings into words, to be honest. Completely surreal. I remember it like it was yesterday, but it also seems a very long time ago, which is bizarre. But yeah, absolutely incredible. The best feeling in the world, probably the best day of my life. And then in terms of, it's very interesting as well, that the kind of, you've reached the summit and got to go again kind of thing. Our coach, don't ask me why he said this, the very morning after we'd won, he said, well, you've reached the moon, who's going back? And it was kind of like, what do you mean? Like, we won last night, and you're talking about another 4 years' time, like, who's going to try and get back there again? But it made complete sense, like, in a way as well, because it was like, yeah, we've got to do this again and more if you're going to try and eclipse it. And we've got a vision as a squad of kind of be the difference, create history, and inspire the future. And I think the create history bit is the bit that drives us on in that sense to reach the summit again, because we want to be a team that's done it twice in a row. No GB team has ever done it twice in a row. There are also a World Cup to win, there's a Commonwealth Games to win, and those kind of things that still drive you on. And I think also just standing on that podium, receiving your medal, who wouldn't want to kind of get that feeling again if you possibly can? So I think that's enough to drive me on as well.
So it's the type of thing I can imagine Klopp saying to the Liverpool team last night, or for those of you who have seen the basketball documentary on Netflix, the type of thing, it's that creating history bit, as you say. It's that's a really cool point to make. Wonderful. We'll press on. I'm just going to try and get to some questions and make sure that everybody's got something. Imogen asked a really good question before tonight, and Imogen is a mid-Glamorgan young girl within the pathway. Imogen asks, I sometimes get nervous before a game. What do you do to help calm your nerves? That would be something every sports person will relate to. Luffy, what's your response to that one?
I used to get really nervous, actually, and yeah, it's just finding a way to manage them. For me, I know that if I'm nervous, I'm ready to perform, and it matters, and I'm desperate to do well. So it's just trying to think about it as, right, okay, I'm nervous, but that's a nervous energy. I'm excited about what's to come. And then it's just about trying to stay as relaxed as you can. For instance, before you go into bat, just trying to remind yourself what you're good at, watching what the situation of the game is, and what you might be required to do. So you're already trying to think about, when you get in there, what's your plan. So really, you've done all the hard work. You can't really change it when you're sat in the dugout. All your prep is done. So it's just about being ready to go out there and show what you can do, really.
Yeah, spot on. That's really, really well put. CT, nervous before? Did you get nervous before game or not?
I went through a period where I used to be sick before I used to bat, so I used to get really, really nervous.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not so much anymore, so don't worry about it. But I think it's just about, if you show nerves, it shows you care. I think that's really important. If you have somebody who kind of goes on, it doesn't sometimes send quite the same message if you go on a kind of all blasé and kind of dragging yourself around the field. I think for me, having nerves shows you care, but it's about kind of visualizing that goal, and thinking, okay, this is a game. Where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve at the end of this game? And just try and set yourself small little goals. So don't kind of blow it out of proportion. Just try and keep it very simple. Stick to your game plan, and again, your strengths, and know your strengths. And if you've got your strengths back, then you're going to do well in a game and really back yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Giselle, nervous or no?
Whether it's nerves or excitement, I don't know which one it is, or whether it's both, then that's fine. I go with it the same way. And I think the biggest thing for me is just knowing that I've done the work beforehand. I think, like, if I was nervous without the kind of knowledge that I have done everything that I can prior to that, then it would be a bit different. But no, I know that I've done the work when I get to a game. I know that I'm prepared, and as Luffy said, you've done everything that you need to do, and now is just a chance to just go and enjoy it. And that's the biggest thing for me. Every time I get to play a match, it's just like, this is what I train for. This is why I do all that hard work. This is why you do kind of, well, for us, whatever, those running sessions in the freezing cold and the days when your stick feels like it's breaking your hands, and like, I do all of that because I get to go and enjoy a game. And ultimately, you're going out there with 11 of my mates just to have fun. And ultimately, it's an incredible honour every time I get to play on the pitch in an England shirt. So to remember that part of it as well.
Yeah, we'll edit that bit to say Welsh shirt for those of you that are listening.
Sorry.
No, don't be silly. I'm English, so you've got 2-2 on this call. That's fine. Just go back to the Super, because CT's touched on a good bit there around. We spoke about it at the start. It's knowing what you're good at, and you're there for a reason, for kind of what you've brought beforehand. And one of the questions that I didn't get around to earlier was around the super strength, which Rena asks is. Great that we focus on, or you guys have talked around, concentrate on your strengths and make those super strengths. How do you actually, identify them and encourage? How do you get to recognizing what your super strengths are? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah,
I'll give that to anybody. Yeah, Giselle, carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that does make complete sense, and I think as coaches, that's part of kind of from your observations and bits like that, I mean, I can look at most kind of kids and see that this is something that they're really good at. I think every kid brings their own individual take on something, and that's not to be coached out of them. Well, personally, I don't think that's to be coached out of them. You want a little bit of individual flair or whatever. But I think it's to encourage them to keep exploring different bits. But I think you can see in one kid, you know, for me in hockey, it's easier for me to talk about that bit, is, you know, this kid can really read the game really well. So actually, you know, encourage them to do that, encourage them to explore it a little bit more, and actually, you know, that could be something that develops into something for them that is a game changer. Whereas this kid's got unbelievable hands, and actually that might be the alleyway that kind of is there in a game. So I think it's knowing your players, and I think Luffy alluded to that earlier. It's all about knowing your players, and if you know them, you can identify something that they love as well. You can see when a kid goes out and they just want to hit balls around, or they just want to dribble, and I think that gives you a really good idea at the start as well. Is something that they're really passionate about tends to be something they're pretty good at at a young age, for sure.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, especially around the players' context of their upbringing, you know, and those of you that are coaches around here will know that, you know, the malingas and the weird side action kind of came from the surf on the beach and getting the ball to skid off the water, that type of stuff. So that's a really good point around kind of how players mould their games around their context, I guess. Kind of linked to that, we've touched on it already, but Coxie, one of our coaches, has popped a question in the chat box. Two biggest differences he finds between coaching boys and girls. Girls actually listen. Yeah, that's absolutely fair point. I would wholeheartedly agree with that one. And I hope there's no of our junior boys on this call. But Mark kind of asked, boys are so confident and sure of themselves. Even the most talented girls can be very self-aware and afraid of making mistakes. Yeah, we've kind of touched on that a little bit. But how do we? It's all well and good encouraging them to, you know, make those mistakes, but how in the environment do coaches, or how have coaches made you guys feel that you can make those mistakes, if that's a long-winded way of saying it? And CT, I'll come to you on that one.
I'd probably go to sort of winter training for me, really. If I look at batting in terms of kind of shots that I feel comfortable playing, I can hopefully nail most of the time. You know, the coaches will say, okay, well, I know that you can do this. We're not going to work on those this session. We're just going to give it a go with just these shots that perhaps we don't see a lot of and we haven't seen you play previous season a lot. Just have a go. And it is just, there's been an awful lot of ownership on players leading the session as well, and actually being responsible for what they do. And kind of the coach is the facilitator and kind of stands back. And you are the one then who kind of dictates how much you want to do it, how much you want to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And I think it's just that kind of, it's just that environment, isn't it? And creating that environment where, you know, people are not scared to try something, but it's okay if you make a mistake. If your mistake costs your team the game in a county championship match, it's how the team reacts and how the coach reacts after that means you either come back next year or that's it, you're done sometimes. So I think it's the whole culture of what you create as a coach, and that kind of takes time to establish, I guess, and working on the same values and things.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, I guess again from a player's point of view, and Luffy, this one might be relevant to you because you're a pioneer of kind of scoop shots and those types of things from what I've seen of your playing time. What's the game of certainly cricket? What's that?
You've been watching the wrong player.
Have I? Oh, I've definitely seen a scoop or two. I'm sure I have. But definitely with kind of the way that, again, cricket, maybe not so much hockey, and Giselle can correct me on this in a minute, but the way the game is evolving so quickly, and batters, bowlers, you're having to come up with lots of new stuff. You can't almost stand still for too long before the game overtakes you. Is that motivation to want to be trying stuff and not be sitting still?
Yeah, 100%. If you're not trying something, then someone else is somewhere else along the line. And I think the way that cricket is going, you know, the format seems to be getting shorter and shorter. You know, I know T20 came in a long time ago, and you know, now we're looking at, you know, new tournaments like the 100. But you know, you have to take risks, don't you? And I guess you have to go out and you have to back yourself and be confident. It certainly shifted my game, playing shorter format white ball cricket. You know, you can't get yourself in using a number of deliveries. You have to be busy at the crease from ball one, and you have to back your best options. So I think the shift in that development of the women's game should only encourage young girls to try new things, invent new shots, and keep trying to whack it out the park, because I think it's underrated that, you know, women and girls can hit sixes, but they definitely can. And I encourage any young girl in the nets to keep whacking the ball. I think we talk too much about, you know, protecting your wickets and get in line, and I'd much rather go into a net and see a young girl trying to whack the ball than I would a perfect defensive shot in this day and age anyway. Yeah,
cool, definitely. And Giselle, yeah, maybe in a hockey context, kind of how are young girls encouraged to, what does it actually look like in practice to encourage them to try?
Yeah.
How do coaches go about that?
I mean, we're talking here, the question obviously is about young girls, but I think it's systemic the whole way through. Even now, we've got people in our team very much you know, worry about making mistakes or looking silly or, you know, getting something wrong. And the way that we've gone about it now is to specifically create sessions that are all about trying stuff, and they don't have that performance element, because in a performance environment especially, but definitely younger, when you've got friends watching you, seeing how you are and stuff like that, making a mistake in those kind of environments does make you feel silly. It does even now make you feel silly. It shouldn't, but it does, and it's just the way it is. So we have specific sessions which are just about trying stuff out, and I think that's the best thing that our coach ever did for us, is just to, you know, this session, it's not about performance, it is about going out and having a go. Try this, try that, and they, as Cici said, are facilitators of those sessions. They can give you, and it's when you can get your greatest technical input, I think, is in those kind of sessions as well. Real specifics around, I don't know, a grip change or you know, something like that for us.
Superb. No, that's really, really spot on as well. You know what? I think we haven't answered all questions that I'm looking at, but we've pretty much touched on each and every one in some way, shape, or form. And I did promise that we try and keep it within our designated hour, which I think we're just about able to do. So, girls, thanks so much for that. I hope, well, I know that will be very useful not only to the people on this call, but as I say, when it goes online via our channels, it's a really good insight into kind of all of your experiences at a really high level. So thanks so much for joining us tonight. CT and Luffy, we wish you a really, well, I hope, fingers crossed, some cricket and really successful cricket for the rest of this summer if you guys get it on. And Giselle, yeah, obviously you're coming back from injury, so fingers crossed that all works out for you, and we tune in to seeing you being successful on the hockey field. I don't think there's any more questions. So as I say, I think we'll sign off there. But yeah, look after yourselves. Look after yourself, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers. Thanks very much, everyone. Cheers.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.